We're here at Bank Street College for the Bank Street College Book Committee Awards, and we have one of the winners with us, and that's Susan Kuklin, whose book, Beyond Magenta, has won the Flora Stieglitz Straus Award for nonfiction. This is like the second award you've won recently, right?
Yes.
You're coming off the Stonewall Award?
Stonewall Honor. The Stonewall Honor, yes.
That's given by ALA.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And so tell us about the creation of the book.
Well, basically, I thought that the T in LGBTQ was undervalued, and no one was talking about it at the time. This was 6 years ago. And so I thought it was time to give these people a voice, and because we didn't know enough about them. So 6 young people from ages, 16 to 21 were willing to come forward, mostly using photographs and their names and their experiences. And we did very in-depth conversations about who they are, what their feelings are, how they transition, what they were up against, you know, dealing with families and dealing with friends and everything else. And that's how it sort of started evolving into a book.
And the book is published by Candlewick.
Yes, it is. Yes,
and you're up, besides this award and the Stonewall Award, you're up for 2 other awards, right?
Yes, one is the Lambda Literary Award, which is a great honor to be a finalist in that, and the other is a Muscular Dystrophy Award for children's books.
Well, I know that the Lambda Awards, they're called the Lammies. Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's like in early June.
Yes, June 1st.
Well, good luck with that.
Wait for that one.
Well, I'm here with the this year's winner of the Josette Frank Award for Fiction for Young Readers, Ann Martin. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you very much.
And the book is Rain, Rain. Tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is about a young girl named Rose who's on the autism spectrum, and her dog, who is her really her one true emotional connection to the world, and what happens when she loses her dog during a hurricane.
And are you a dog person?
I am a dog person. I don't have a dog right now, but for almost 16 years I had the world's most wonderful dog, Sadie, and she was an inspiration for Rain in the book.
Now, I know, because I'm involved with the Empire State Center for the book, that Rain has been selected by New York State to represent the state at the National Book Festival. So congratulations on that. But you've also been recognized elsewhere. Where?
Yes, the NCTE Charlotte Huck Award, and also the Schneider Family Award, and I think it's an ALA notable book also. So it's very exciting, and I'm very grateful.
And congratulations on those awards. And what's in the future?
What's in the future? Laura Godwin and I, who work on the Doll People books together, have just finished the manuscript for the first Doll People picture book. And then I'm working on something else which has to remain under wraps for the moment. So.
Well, now that's very mysterious, so we'll just have to keep track. So enjoy the day, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're here with Jenny Brown. She's the director of the Bank Street Center for Children's Literature, and the awards today are given by a book committee. So tell us about that committee.
Well, the Children's Book Committee at Bank Street is actually older than the college itself. It's more than 100 years old, and it started with the Child Study Association. And when that disbanded in the 70s, they, I think, ran out of funding. Bank Street stepped up and said, we would like to house the Children's Book Committee. So some of our members actually moved from the Child Study Association here to Bank Street and date back more than 30 years.
Welcome to the Children's Book Committee Awards Ceremony celebrating books published in 2014. I'm Linda Greengrass. This is Mollie Welsh Kruger, and we are the co-chairs of the Children's Book Committee. Today, we will be honoring 5 extraordinary books and the talented people responsible for them. You'll hear more about them shortly. The Children's Book Committee has been in existence for over 100 years. It began as an outgrowth of the list of recommended books that was prepared by the then executive director of the Child Study Association, Josette Frank, after whom our fiction award is named. The goal then, as now, was to guide teachers, librarians, and parents to high-quality children's books that were developmentally appropriate to the intended audience and would have a positive impact on the emotional health of the reader. While our work is always evolving, our fundamental mission remains the same. As you can see, this year we were fortunate to be able to return to a print version of our annual list. While we can only provide one copy to each of you today, additional copies may be purchased by emailing us at bookcom@bankstreet.edu. We will also be posting the PDFs on our webpage shortly. You will note that the content is organized in the same way as last year's online lists. Each book is listed under the appropriate age range, under 5, 5 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 14, and 14 and older. Within these age ranges, books are then grouped by topic. Fiction categories first, then poetry, and finally information books. Of course, all of the books on our list are wonderful, but some are truly special. An asterisk before a title means that we consider the book to be outstanding. The Children's Book Committee is an entirely volunteer organization and is dependent on donations. In your packet, you will find a sheet outlining some of the ways you can help. If you would care to help support our work, we would be grateful. If you prefer to make a donation online, just visit our website and click on Support the Children's Book Committee link.
And we love that website and try to keep it current and growing. Also available on our website, we share some resources that committee members have created. There's a list of read aloud for older readers, and we all know it's not just for the little ones that read aloud. Another click can lead to our building blocks of reading that offer suggestions for libraries, both home and school, for 5 and under and 5 and older. We have 2 newer lists that have been created, the first being a STEM titles list, and that's science, technology, engineering, and math. Gotta shout it out. And we are really seeking to support the refreshed look that educators are taking in regards to informational texts. And finally, we have a still growing resource of our social and emotional learning through literature. It's organized around topics such as accepting others, and addressing bullying and teasing. It includes lists by age range. I'm sure you're hearing that age piece, as the developmental components of these texts are really important to us. We have those books available for 8 and under, as well as 9 and older, to support family and educators as they're seeking social and emotional, really good books to help support. Each month, you can stop by our website and check out the pick of the month, and that's a highlight of a standout book from the committee's conversations, and it comes complete with a young reviewer's perspective. So the book committee has been producing their best books of the year for decades. As you know, Bank Street, or as you may know, Bank Street is preparing to celebrate its 100th anniversary in 2016, and we had the recent good news of sustaining our bookstore, the Bank Street Bookstore, which is now in its bright new location on 107th and Broadway, close by. So we're delighted that our new president, Shael Polakow-Suranksy, will shepherd us into this new century Bank Street. And the Children's Book Committee was thrilled to meet with Shael last summer with 2 of our long-standing members, Margaret Cooper and Muriel Mandel, who shared about the book committee from their over 60 years of cumulative experience. Today, we welcome President Shael Polakow-Suranksy to his first Children's Book Committee Awards presentation. And so I invite Shael to the podium.
Thank you, Linda and Molly, and thank you all for being here today. I'm very excited and honored to be present and to speak with you this morning. As Molly mentioned, one of the first things I did as I started this past year at Bank Street was to ensure that our bookstore would continue. I felt like it was a critical part of Bank Street's history, and our commitment to children's literature has been part of this institution from the beginning. And this too, this committee and its awards are similarly a critical part of Bank Street and something I want to help to support and to celebrate. The 3 awards we're going to present today are named in honor of 3 of the committee's most influential and passionate members, Josette Frank, Claudia Lewis, and Flora Stieglitz, Straus. And as many of you know, the Bank Street Book Committee is older than Bank Street College itself. It actually started as part of the Child Study Association, and when it ran out of funding, it came to Bank Street. Mollie mentioned the summer I met with the committee, and Margaret and Muriel Mandel spoke about how in the early days of the Child Study Association, sometimes people came to blows. They were so passionate about the books. Margaret and Muriel, could I just ask you to stand or wave so that everyone can recognize you? Thank you for being here. Bank Street also has a long tradition of supporting children's literature, and our Center for Children's Literature continues this support through the work of the Children's Book Committee, the Irma Black Award, the Cook Prize, Book Fest at Bank Street, and the Writers Lab. Members representing all of these aspects of the center are with us today, and we're delighted to welcome them as well as all of you who are joining us. One of my most gratifying responsibilities as president of the college is to announce new initiatives, and next month we'll begin our very first writer in residency with the 2015 Nobel Medal winner, Newbery Medal winner. It's almost as important. Kwame Alexander. Kwame will work with our 8-9s class on their poetry for 6 weeks, from early April through mid-May. And Bank Street College is actually going to be establishing an endowment to continue this writer in residency in the name of Dorothy Carter. Dorothy is a children's author, a Broadway actress, the first African-American member of the Bank Street College faculty, and a leader of the Bank Street Writers Lab. We lost Dr. Carter in 2012, but her legacy will live on through the Dorothy Carter Writer in Residence program. It's also fortuitous that Kwame Alexander will inaugurate this program, not only because he's the winner of the 2015 Newbery Medal, but also because his father, who graduated from Bank Street in 1971, was a student of Dr. Carter's. We also want to invite you to the Irma Black Award and Cook Prize celebration, which will be held here on Thursday, May 14th. Voting for the 4 finalists of the Irma Black Award and Cook Prize honoring picture books that teach STEM principles are now open. You may find registration information on the bankstreet.edu website. We thank the Children's Book Committee for providing the short list of 16 contenders for both awards to our judges. Congratulations today to all of our award winners, and please join me in thanking the committee for their hard work. And now I'd like to invite our Dean of Children's Programs, Alexis Wright, who would like to share a greeting.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Shael, and thanks to the Children's Book Committee. And I really just want to welcome everybody. I want to thank you, but also really share with you how important the Children's Book Committee is to my division of the college children's programs. So we talk a lot about community and about collaboration. Those have always been essential words as we think about education and our children and here at the college. And we're always looking for ways to join together the efforts of the graduate faculty, School for Children teachers to produce relevant material and research that will enrich the education of all of our students, that's the children and grown-ups. And I think in many ways the Children's Book Committee is actually already there. So members come from all sections of the community, graduate school faculty, alumni, parents, librarians, School for Children teachers, the young reviewers, and they all participate in the selection process for the best books of the year. And in many ways, the book committee is such an essential part of professional development for those important members of the community. The book committee members are also represent the larger New York City community, so they're social workers, writers, artists, librarians, psychologists, reviewers, and parents who give their time and expertise. Remember, they're all volunteers to create this guide for literacy for everyone. And so the annual donation of the best books of the year is a priceless service. It's a resource not only for our School for Children and graduate school faculty, but I'm very pleased that the collection serves as a resource for children and graduate faculty, but it's open to teachers, librarians, and student teachers no matter where they work or attend school. So it's really providing a service beyond these walls of Bank Street College, which is important as we think about the work that we do and how we can extend it into the larger community. For our immediate community, and I'm thinking of my children in the Family Center and the School for Children, having the authors and illustrators visit classrooms is a gift that we do not take for granted. I assure you of that. And without the book committee, our author visit program would not be the resource that it is or the envy that it is of other schools. And I hear from other colleagues in other schools across the city who indeed are envious of the access to authors that our children have. And just on a personal note, as the father of two young daughters, the best books of the year list is very important in our own household. And so this year, the book committee honors 5 books that I think exemplify the core values of the Bank Street community. You'll hear more about them in a second and from the creators. But I do just want to single out a couple of pieces. It gives us great pleasure to honor a book such as Beyond Magenta by Susan Kuklin, illustrated with photographs by the author. We held an event here at Bank Street last spring that involved our 8th graders, our 13s, 14s, in conversation with Susan and one of the participants that really helped to push our curriculum forward, enlarge the perspectives of folks in the community, and as the students really sort of deeply explored aspects of gender. Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson has inspired our 9s, 10s, our 4th graders to have powerful conversations about haiku, about the author's family, and about the civil rights movement. And as one student said, "She didn't tell us that people were racist, she showed us through their actions, like the woman following her and her grandmother in the store." And then I just want to conclude with a quote from one of our 11s, 12s students who said of Anne Martin's book, Rain, Rain, "I liked how we were inside Rose's head. We got to see how she thought about her world." So this effort is really so instrumental to how we think about teaching and learning and providing these educational experiences for children that they get to move through and construct meaning from. And the book committee and the work that all of you do is so important to our efforts. So I want to thank everybody here today involved with the book committee, the volunteers, as well as all the award winners. Thank you very much for coming. It's very exciting to see students from other schools here as well, so thank you for being here. And I want to introduce Jenny Brown, our Director of the Center for Children's Literature.
Thank you all for coming today to celebrate the Bank Street Children's Book Committee Awards with us. We are deeply gratified by Shael Polakow-Suransky's support of the Children's Book Committee's work, and we're thrilled to be putting our annual Best Books of the Year list in print for the first time in 5 years, and to give each of you a copy to take with you. There's a book by Joan Abelov called Go and Come Back. It's set in a small village on the Amazon where they have no word for goodbye. Instead, when someone leaves the village, they say, "Go and come back." Those of you who know me, and I've known many of you for, well, many years, know that I'm always looking for a plan to see when I'll see you next. And I'd just like to take a moment to note that we have a long line of librarians here on whose shoulders I stand. Linda Greengrass, our co-chair. Lisa Von Drasek. Allie Jane Bruce. And the team without whom I could do nothing, Kristen Frieda and Lindsay Wyckoff. So I'd like to thank them too. As you've heard me say before, no one ever really leaves Bank Street. So on that note, we hope that all of you will gather together again with us on Monday, April 6th. As Shael said, we are doing a kickoff here in Tabas Auditorium with an evening program to kick off the Dorothy Carter Writer in Residency. It's Doing the Right Thing, 1969 to 2015, a literary legacy conversation between Kwame Alexander, 2015 Newbery medalist, and his father, Dr. E. Curtis Alexander, Bank Street class of 1970. The conversation will be moderated by historian Leonard S. Marcus from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. I know, right? It's all-star cast. And a reception will follow in the lobby, so please do plan to join us. On Saturday, April 11th, we have an all-day conference called The Building Blocks of Play, Art, Books, and Childhood. Thank you. From 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This has been a long time in the making. Roby Harris has helped me plan this, and with, again, the support of Kristen Frieda and Lindsay Wyckoff. And we have a fabulous lineup. Laura Vaccaro-Seeger, Roby Harris, Nina Cruz, Paul Zielinski, Peter Reynolds, Richard Lewis from the Touchdown Center, and a pop-up workshop where we all get to play. That will be led by Becca Zirkin, who's a parent in the School for Children and also works with Matt Reinhardt in his pop-up studio. And many of you may have seen the op-ed piece that Shael and Nancy Nager wrote about the importance of play in pre-K. Our thinking is let's extend it beyond pre-K right into adulthood. So Nancy Nager will be moderating the early childhood panel. We hope you can all make it. And the tickets are $70, and that includes lunch and breakfast. Then, as Shael said, on Thursday, May 14, we have the Irma Black Award and Cook Prize ceremony. Children all over the world are reading right now and will be voting by April 20. And Fiona Robinson will be our keynote speaker. She won for what animals really like. So, today's celebration is the culmination of the book committee's year-long process of reading and discussing the thousands of books for young people published each year. Our award winners are nominated from within the committee as the absolute cream of the crop. Committee members worked especially hard this year so that we could pull together our printed Best Books of the Year list. And I would like to ask all of the members of the Children's Book Committee to please stand and be recognized. One of the hallmarks of the Children's Book Committee is its Young Reviewers program. We carefully weigh the opinions that come back from the children and young adults who review the books under consideration and feature many of their quotes on our webpage. Here to talk more about the Young Reviewers program is Todd Jackson, former teacher at the School for Children and current member of the Children's Book Committee.
This is the 25th year of the Young Reviewers program of the Children's Book Committee. Alex Granis, Nan Shipley, Leslie Wagner, and I coordinate the Young Reviewer Committee. This year, we've had reviewers from as far away as Alaska, Minnesota, and Colorado. They range in age from 1.5 to 18. 3 longtime reviewers, all boys, graduated from high school last June and are now in college, so not reviewing for us anymore. We particularly welcome 6 new young reviewers from the Cornelia Connolly Center in Manhattan who are with us today. We are also building our online Young Reviewers program. This offers the opportunity for young reviewers to participate in our process regardless of their location. We post monthly titles of books which are widely available in their local libraries, and they send us the reviews. We hope to expand this program so that we can have as diverse a reviewing population as possible. So see our website for more information. We request reviews from children because we're interested in how a book appeals to them. We want to know if they find the illustrations appealing, what they think makes the book special or different, what age reader the book is best for, and why they think the author wrote it. When a book is given an award by our committee, it has been our tradition to share the young reviewers' comments with the authors, illustrators, and guests at our annual award celebration. Here are excerpts from some of their reviews of this year's award-winning books. The 2015 Josette Frank Award for Fiction is shared by 2 books. For younger readers, Rain, Rain by Anne M. Martin. Elena, a 9-year-old reviewer from Connecticut, wrote, I really liked the concept of Rose being autistic. It brought a whole new aspect to the story. You learn that you have to do the right thing, even if you don't want to. It's also great to see someone autistic make friends with someone normal. This book really made me think about things in a different way. For older readers, I'll give you The Sun by Jandy Nelson. Irene, a 14-year-old reviewer from New Jersey, wrote, this book is special because the characters are very complex and you get to know them and sympathize with them really well. There were no illustrations in this book, despite it being about art. However, there was great imagery, so you could imagine it yourself. It was a very fun and interesting read, and you think about the characters long after you've read it. The themes of the book are relevant to any audience, like accepting yourself and striving to be yourself in the midst of other people and their overbearing personalities. The 2015 Claudia Lewis Award for Poetry is also shared. For younger readers, Winter Bees and Other Poems of the Cold by Joyce Sidman, illustrated by Rick Allen. Greer, an 8-year-old reviewer from Colorado, wrote, I liked how this book gave you information on the animal that the poem was about. The writing was very juicy. My favorite poem was the one with the wolf and the crow and the winter bees. I loved the illustrations. I loved how they showed the animals working. I noticed in almost each picture there's a fox. For older readers, Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. Julia, a 15-year-old reviewer from New Jersey, wrote, I found this book beautiful. I love the way that one character connects the Midwest, the South, and the Northeast so smoothly. Constantly feeling uprooted is a central theme. I absolutely fell in love with Jacqueline's family. I was moved by her mother's determination, her grandmother's quiet strength, her sister's wit, her brother's singing, and her littlest brother's innocence. However, her relationship with her grandfather is enough to recommend the book. And finally, the 2015 Flora Stieglitz Straus Award for Nonfiction, Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out by Susan Kuklin. Foster, a 14-year-old reviewer from Alaska, wrote, the modern civil rights movement has expanded to fight for the rights of people with different sexual preferences and identities. Beyond Magenta addresses the transgender part of the movement. The book presents 6 stories told through annotated transcripts of interviews of courageous and articulate transgender teenagers. Rather than relying on clinical language, the author uses transgenders' own thoughts and feelings to explore the problems they face and their solutions. We appreciate the thoughtfulness of our young reviewers and consider their input essential to choosing the best children's books of the year. We have a few of our young reviewers with us today, and I'd like to ask them to stand. Okay. Thank you. We also have many more reviews from young reviewers on our website, so I encourage you to read them. Thank you.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about how we choose our award books. As you may know, every book on our list has been read and approved by a minimum of 2 committee members, although there are usually more readers. As we review, a committee member may nominate a book for one of our awards. When 4 readers agree that the book meets our criteria, it becomes a candidate. In order to vote on an award, a committee member must have read every book in the award category and be present for the entire discussion of that category. The first award we will present today is the Flora Stieglitz Straus Award. The Flora Stieglitz Straus Award was established in 1994. It honors Flora Straus, who led the committee for many years. The award is presented annually for a distinguished work of nonfiction which serves as an inspiration to young people. Flora Straus stood for the values of courage, hard work, truth, and beauty while adapting to a changing world. She believed that books about varying cultures enrich and help all children in their growth. She championed diverse opinions and points of view. She was a person of high principles, unfailing courtesy, and deep understanding, and was an inspiration to all who had the privilege of knowing her.
And our winner and its blurb, Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out, written and photographed by Susan Kuklin, edited by Hilary Van Nussen. It's put out by Candlewick Press. And the blurb reads, 6 transgender youth speak of the social and familiar problems they face and their deep need to be who they are. Photographs show changes in how these teens present to the world. And we invite Susan Kuklin to come and receive her award.
They told me no, said, "What are you?" Said, "You gotta choose." Said, "Pink or blue?" And I said, "I'm a real nice color of magenta." I'm enormously grateful to receive the Flora Stieglitz Straus Award for Nonfiction. For many years, I've sat in this audience during the award ceremonies, admiring the dedication and care the Children's Book Committee takes when dealing with so massive amount of books and doing such critical reading. Thank you all for your faith in my little book and for the great honor. It's also humbling to be linked to so extraordinary a woman as Flora Stieglitz Straus, and the fact that she was the niece of one of my all-time favorite photographers, Alfred Stieglitz, is completely awesome. So, we in this room live privileged lives. We're not hungry, we're relatively safe and healthy. Literature and art and music are part of our lives. And we also have innovative technology to bring these gifts right into our homes. Innovation, creativity, and development come from the mind, but the ideas behind them often come from the heart. The publication of this book is but one example. In order to create it, I needed the innovative techniques of computers, texts, emails, high-resolution cameras, Photoshop, tape recorders, and extraordinary editing from my editor and printing from Candlewick Press. But first and foremost came the idea, and that came from the heart. There were no technology needed at all. In spite of these privileges, I believe, as the law professor and humanitarian Brian Stevenson believes, that our identity is at risk. He says that society needs to pay attention to the marginalized, to the bullied, to poverty, to suffering, to exclusion, to unfairness, and to injustice. This part of identity is more challenging and is tougher. It will definitely get to you. 6 years ago, it occurred to me that the T in LGBTQ was underreported and undervalued. And yet people who fell under the transgender umbrella were bullied, beaten, and rejected. Some were laughed at. Others were murdered. The suicide rate was high for so small a group. Since most of my books have to do with freedom of expression, human rights, civil rights, and the arts, I thought it essential to learn more about them. And what I quickly learned was them are us. As I got to know Jesse, Christina, Mariah, Cameron, Nat, and Luke, the 6 brave, insightful, vulnerable young people who share their stories in Beyond Magenta, I saw many more commonalities than I did differences. In my view, what makes them different from others, from us, was their willingness to speak out honestly and boldly about private matters so that others in similar situations would not feel alone. Hear Mariah. I want people to know what I went through. I want people going through the same thing to know they are not alone. Transition? Everybody goes through one kind of transition or another. We go through transitions every day. except mine may be a little more extreme. I'm not at the end of my transition, I'm barely at the beginning. These young adults spoke out because they wanted other people, cis people, to learn and to question respectfully. And they spoke out because they wanted their identities acknowledged. They would not allow them to be invisible. Nat says, when the doctors confirmed that I was intersex, I thought, wow, I'm a whole other gender. It proved what I was feeling all along. I was not only emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually both sexes, I was physically both sexes. This is who I am. In this too often ugly and challenged world, those 6 people gave me hope. They reveal something beautiful in the human spirit. Now, since my process in writing nonfiction is a little bit different than my colleagues and other authors, Jenny asked me to speak a little bit about how Beyond Magenta transitioned. So my primary sources were right in front of me. I wasn't in a library. I was writing and photographing, and as they talked to me. To find most of the teens, I worked with the Callan Lord Community Health Center here in New York. They have a program called HOT, Health Outreach to Teens. It's something everyone should know about. I'm amazed at the kind of work they're doing. It's just wonderful. And together, the people at HOT and I came up with a plan, finding the youths without compromising the relationship between client and medical caregiver. To ensure diversity, we planned in advance exactly which clients to approach so that no one was pressured and no one was rejected. Luke, the young actor-poet who came from the Proud Theater in Madison, Wisconsin, another very innovative program. There were hours and hours of taped conversations. During this time, tears flowed from both of us, but we also burst into hysterical laughter and ironic, goofy humor. I never heard so many jokes about vaginas, boobs, and penises. Never. In the end, though, the tapes were generally a total mess. It was like a mishmash of experiences and munching of food and slurping of drinks and laughter, so much laughter. These tapes needed to be shaped into coherent narratives that clearly emphasize the person's voice. After all, books are about good stories, and this one had to be crafted in a way that blended storytelling with truth. Unlike fiction, which has infinite possibilities, nonfiction is finite. The writer must work within the confines of facts. Facts. It's like a sonnet with a strict rhyme scheme and structure. Though Beyond Magenta had to be true to the person's voice, it also had to be written creatively, with a beginning, a middle, an end, with highs and lows, with arcs and cliffhangers, and heart, always with heart. Storytelling and truth. Oy vey. Once home, I transcribed everything myself. It was my way of getting their voices in my bones. Draft 1 consisted of relevant material and an outline of the person's life. Details, please. I need lots of details. Jessie, for example, talked about taking testosterone injections. After being on them for 1 month, my metabolism was going crazy. How, Jess? I started noticing underarm hair. Anything else? Oh, and my muscle mass was increasing a little. People noticed the changes, and I was eating like crazy. Deborah Heiligman, who's here today, said, well, what was he eating? I called Jess, what were you eating? Pasta and ice cream, junk food. When I finished one, I had to have more. That went into the book. In writing this book, it seemed more honest to write in the first person. After all, my subjects were the experts, not me. My subjects were the brave one, not me. They were the teachers, I was the student. First-person writing seemed more direct, and it brings the reader closer to the participant. It also empowered the participants to speak for themselves. Take Christina, a transgender young woman going to an all-boys Catholic high school in the Bronx. Christina, then known as Matthew, has a heaping dose of Latina fire in her. So by her senior year, she refused to be anyone other than her true self and would no longer dress male. That first day I walked outside, people just stared at me. I loved the attention. I didn't think I looked like a girl yet, but there was something about people acknowledging me, wondering what I was, that made me happy. Now, my husband Bailey, who's here today, and I promised not to make a big deal about it, so bear with me on this, helped me tremendously in the early drafts, as did fellow writers Liz Levy, Roby Harris, and Deborah Heiligman. Friends and librarians, especially Carlin Sick, and other professionals in the field read later drafts. Most importantly, though, were the experts themselves. They read it, and I waited for their comment, "It sounds just like me." That's what I needed to hear, my beautiful experts. Because each individual chapter is distinct, like the person it represents, it was necessary to do something visually different in each chapter. Rather than simply being informational, the photographs needed to be organic representations of the person in the book. And with the exception of Nat, they cried out for color. YA nonfiction illustration is traditionally black and white. And I forgot to mention the need for color till I sent in the book to Hilary Van Dusen. Fortunately, Candlewick Press and the remarkable Hilary, who is a very gutsy editor, took content and creativity over cost and supported this effort 100%. Thank you, dear Candlewick family, for transitioning into color. Luke, the young actor whose poem began this talk, says in part, "But somewhere there's this scared young woman in a black dress on a claustrophobic staircase, bleeding because that safety razor wasn't all that safe after all. Backstage and illuminated by a blue ghost light, and she finally dares to look you in the eye." Thank you.
The Claudia Lewis Award, given for the first time in 1998, honors the late Claudia Lewis, distinguished children's book expert and longtime member of the Bank Street College faculty and the Children's Book Committee. She conveyed her love and understanding of poetry with humor and grace. The award is given for the best poetry book or books of the year.
And for older readers, this award goes to Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, edited by Nancy Paulsen, published by Nancy Paulsen Books at Penguin. And our blurb: through a series of poems, the author Jacqueline Woodson tells the story of growing up in Ohio, South Carolina, and New York during the turbulent civil rights era, and of becoming a writer. Nancy Paulsen, Jacqueline Woodson's editor, will be accepting on her behalf.
Good morning. I'm really happy to be at Bank Street. So I have a few words from Jacqueline for you all. She says, "So this morning, instead of being here in New York accepting this award, I'm on a plane heading to Tucson to present with Marilyn Nelson and Catherine Patterson, two writers whose work has changed me and changed the world. I'm looking forward to talking memoir with them, but at the same time, it's one of those rare times I wish there were two of me. I know the room is filled with friends and people who have supported my work and loved my writing for many years. For this, I'm thankful to you. And I know the spirit of Claudia Lewis is in the room, an educator who also wrote poems about her childhood. I'm grateful to her and to the committee for choosing Brown Girl Dreaming, a book that I like to think is filled with the crazy poetry of my amazingly ordinary life. And whose life isn't at once ordinary and amazing? My hope is that with this book, young readers and all readers can see the beauty of their journeys through the world, can talk to their elders, understand the grace of those who came before them, continue to walk beside us, and give us strength to keep on moving. When I was first writing Brown Girl Dreaming, I had so many doubts, thinking this was a book no one would want to read because it is felt so deeply personal. But alas, who hasn't lived some part of the story? So because it's now in the world, and because my editor kept the faith and made me do a lot of rewriting, there's a lot of exclamation points there. I think she numbered the drafts. I think there were 31. I thank you, Nancy, for both reading this speech and also for reading so many ding-dang drafts of this book. I hope it's an awesome morning. Know that I am with you in spirit, and in the next few hours, I'll be a whole lot warmer than you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And for younger readers, Winter Bees and Other Poems of the Cold by Joyce Sidman, illustrated by Rick Allen, edited by Ann Ryder. Put out by Houghton Mifflin and Harcourt, BFYR, and our blurb reads, poems evoke the season as plants and animals respond to the cold. Hand-painted, digitalized, layered lineam cuts show nature's beauty. Vocabulary-rich information appears in sidebars. Glossary. Ann Dye from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt will be accepting on behalf of Joyce today. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, so these are Joyce's words. I wish I could be with you today at the Bank Street College of Education, one of my favorite places to visit. I'd hoped to be able to come, but instead we'll be visiting students in a classroom in Minnesota and talking up winter bees. The Claudia Lewis Poetry Award is very special to me because it is not solely based on literary merit, but also on a book's relevance to the lives of young people. We authors write to delight the child inside of us, but we always wonder if other children will be delighted as well. We are never sure if our words will resonate. To me, this award is a stamp of approval from those who truly understand children. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to Bank Street and the Children's Book Committee. I live in Minnesota, which makes me exceptionally qualified to write a book of poetry about winter, although you New Yorkers have had quite a run this year. Winter infuses our daily life here for almost half the year. Even in summer, we are thinking about the inevitability of winter, which makes us frolic all the more frantically. Truthfully, though, we love winter. Its clarity, its coziness, its bright snowy glare, its deep sparkly nights. In Minnesota, we humans have grocery stores and reliable central heating. But what I wondered one day about all the creatures hidden in the snowy woods who have neither of these things. How do they weather such cold and scarcity? This was the central question of winter bees, and one I investigated at great length. My research led me to such marvels as the subnivean zone, a place of shelter for small rodents between frozen ground and snow cover. It led me to the unlikely hunting partnership of ravens and wolves, to the amazing mass hibernation of garter snakes, and to the chemical heat of skunk cabbage as it burns up through the snow in spring. Did you know that chickadees, those tiny little furnaces of fluff, snuggle down at night with a seed snack they gobble upon waking, just so they will have the energy to fly in the chilly dawn? Or that bees remain alive all winter, hidden away in a football-sized mass with the queen at the heart? Or that trees actually form spring buds in the autumn and protect them all winter with a special armor? Who could not be fascinated by all these remarkable facts? And yet my favorite part of researching this book was rambling out into the snow with my trusty dog, Watson. Together we explored the frozen tops of beaver lodges, imagining beaver families nestling and gnawing below. Well, I imagined them. Watson just sniffed and dug. We followed the neat tracks of foxes and listened for the tundra swan's warbling call. We saw below winter's icy surface to the flurry of activity beneath. I tried to put all of the magic of winter into my poems and squeeze the marvelous facts into my nonfiction notes. Probably the most challenging spread was that of the snowflake. It took me a long time to capture a snowflake's voice until I thought about what it would be like to jump, weightless, from a cloud and turn into something perfectly symmetrically beautiful. Writing the nonfiction note, though, was probably the most difficult thing that I have ever done. The scientific process behind the formation of snow crystals involves molecular structure, chaos theory, atmospheric phenomena, and the physics of matter, all extremely difficult to fit into just one paragraph. Rick Allen brought these beautiful and complicated subjects to life with his astounding linocuts and a luscious winter palette. Just looking at the pouncing orange fox on the cover of this book makes me happy. Thank you, Rick. Thanks also to my editor, Ann Ryder, who lives in an even colder part of Minnesota than I do, and sparked the idea for this project, and to the superb team at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, who made this book so gorgeous and so widely read. In the end, I learned that surviving winter is much like surviving life. You need to work with what you have, think one step ahead, be creative, and count on each other. Like the hardy winter bees, we would falter and drop on our own, but together we boil, we team, we hum. Deep in the winter hive, we burn like the golden sun. Thank you so much.
The Josette Frank Award has been given annually since 1943. From 1943 to 1997, it was called the Children's Book Award. Josette Frank, the editor of Anthologies for Children, served for many years as the executive director of the Child Study Association of America, of which this committee was a part. This award for fiction honors a book or books of outstanding literary merit in which children or young people deal in a positive and realistic way with difficulties in their world and grow emotionally and morally.
And for older readers, the award goes to I Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, edited by Jessica Garrison, put out by Dial BFYR at Penguin. And the blurb? When tragedy drives 13-year-old Jude and her twin apart, they need art and some magic to find their way back to each other. And we welcome Jessica Garrison, Jandy's editor, who will be accepting on her behalf.
Thank you. Jandy sent along some words and asked me to read them on her behalf. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to receive the Josette Frank Award and how sad I am not to be able to thank you in person today for this tremendous honor. But in lieu of being there, I'm trusting these words to my partner in literary crime, my brilliant editor, Jess, who better have just read the word brilliant. I'll be checking Jess. I told Jandy that I read this last night on the subway, red-faced, being like, oh, I'm gonna have to not deflect. With whom I trust all my words, and without whose help I'll Give You the Sun would still be a giant, unwieldy heap of words. It's not true. I also would like to thank my extraordinary agent, Holly McGee. Both Jess and Holly were absolutely integral to the creation of this story, bushwhacking through drafts, both of them striking match after match in the dark so I could see my way through. Their support and care and editorial genius is on every page of this novel, and I am so grateful to them, as well as everyone at Penguin Books for Young Readers. This award is all of ours. And to receive an award from Bank Street could not mean more, because you are the pioneers, remaking the world every day by teaching both the kids and the educators, working so tirelessly for children's literature, for children themselves to be deeply and passionately invested in the world around them. I am so honored. Writing I'll Give You the Sun took over 3.5 years, and here's the lunatic lowdown. I spent those years writing the story in a pitch black room, curtains drawn, earplugs in with sound machine blaring, the only light in the room coming from the computer screen, which became like this portal into the story. For some reason, writing in this absolutely insane way allowed me to live inside the story in a way I never had before. The twin protagonists, 13-year-old Noah, this flood in a paper cup with his mad desire to draw, to kiss the boy next door, to peel the blue off the sky, to be the blue in the sky. And 16-year-old Jude, former cliff-diving, boy-kissing daredevil, now a baggy-clothed girl who talks to ghosts and follows her grandmother's Bible of nutty superstitions. These siblings, with their roller coaster relationship, their first loves and profound losses, their passions and betrayals, their abiding and consuming need to make art became so flesh and blood real to me that at one point, while in the middle of writing the novel, I went to a Diebenkorn exhibit, and my very first thought on seeing the painting was, it's such a shame Noah and Jude couldn't come with me today. But the thing is, when characters become real like this, their agency becomes less and less in your control. And so, often in the process of writing this story, I'd find myself shocked, even appalled, at the things the twins did to one another and others in their grief and confusion. Looking up from the screen into the darkness, I'd think, oh no, she did not just do that. But he and she did, and that's why this award means so very much to me too. When Jenny Brown called, thank you so much, Jenny, one of the best phone calls of my life, and quoted to me the Josette Frank Award was given to a novel, quote, in which children or young people deal in a positive way with the difficulties in their world and grow emotionally and morally, I was profoundly moved and honestly felt this wild happiness for Noah and Jude themselves, because this award meant that they did it. These kids who as artists wish with their hands, who in difficult, challenging times made some big mistakes and bad choices, in the end they, according to Bank Street, so it must be true, broke into the light of the world. I got a long letter last week from a 16-year-old girl who just read the novel. At the end of the letter she wrote, while I love the romance and the truth of it, my favorite part is the comfort, the redemption. Let's just say, as a 16-year-old girl, I screw up a lot. But your book reminds me that I deserve love and can fix my screw-ups. I didn't know it when I was writing, but I think now, thanks to you and this marvelous award and letters like these from teens, that this is largely what this novel is about for me. How we can remake the world through art and love, every kind of love. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
And Josette Frank Award for Young Readers is going to Rain Rain by Ann M. Martin, edited by Liz Sabla. It's put up by Feiwel and Friends out of Macmillan, and our blurb reads, 12-year-old Rose, diagnosed with high-functioning autism, steps out of her comfort zone of homonyms, rules, and prime numbers to find her dog lost in a storm. And we welcome to the podium to accept her award, Ann M. Martin.
Thank you. And I want to start off by saying thank you to quite a few people, to everyone at Bank Street and the members of the committee, and also, of course, to my editors, Liz Sabla and Jean Feiwel. We go a long, long way back, and I'm so grateful still to be able to be working with both of them. And also, of course, thank you to the Feiwel and Friends family, and to the children and staff at the Center for Spectrum Services in Kingston, New York. I live in Ulster County, and the Center for Spectrum Services, which is nearby me in Kingston, serves children on the autism spectrum, and it's an amazing school that went from their beginnings in, I think, a church basement in Woodstock, and now have their own dedicated school in Kingston. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place. My friend Jamie Wolfe is one of the co-founders, and Jamie was a wonderful resource while I was working on the story. The story actually began with the character of Rose herself. She began to make herself known to me. She's a child who's on the fringes, both emotionally and actually. She has a lot of obsessions, homonyms or homophones, which I have to admit are also sort of an obsession of mine, and prime numbers and rules and following the rules. And I began to think about Rose, and her voice was beginning to come into my head, and I listened to her as I walked up and down Bostock Road, which is where I live, in the aftermath of Hurricane Irene, which where I live was our Superstorm Sandy. There were entire towns that were damaged, lots and lots of homes that were washed away, people who were displaced. And as I was walking up and down my road and looking at washed out driveways and stone walls and that had washed away and ruined homes, I began also to think about pets that had become separated from their families and what might happen to a pet. And of course I had my own dog Sadie with me, so I was wondering what might have happened if Sadie had gotten lost, and all of this time Rose was speaking to me. And I began to wonder that if Rose Howard was the owner of a dog and that dog got lost, how might Rose handle it, and also what might happen if she got the dog back and found out that it wasn't actually hers. And I also had to think about exactly how Rose would tell the story. This is Rose's story. She's telling her autobiography in a way, and I had to think about how she would break down the facts as she knew them, and so it was an interesting process. And I think the most difficult thing was trying to figure out exactly how Rose's voice would sound. I knew how it sounded in my head, but I had to make it clear on paper. And Rose was also not an easy character to write about, not just because she was on the spectrum, but because she could be very annoying and frustrating. But I wanted her still to be a character, of course, that readers could identify with and sympathize with. And the same with her father, who was even a more difficult, complicated character. He was exactly the wrong father for Rose, but I still needed him to be somebody that characters could understand. And I felt very protective of Rose for a number of reasons. First of all, because I can see a lot of Rose in myself, homonyms aside. And I had to give her a parent who was exactly the wrong parent for her. That was difficult. And in the end of the story, I knew that I was going to take away her one emotional anchor, but it had to feel right. And I think Rose does rise above her challenges. I hope that by the end of the story, readers did find the story not so much sad as uplifting. I know that Rose has a long road ahead of her, and so do the many other children who are in Rose's shoes. But I think that Rose does have a positive support system in place and her first friend, and I hope that was enough to make the story uplifting. Thank you.